Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. Hi, my fellow Americans. Happy to have you along. You are listening to Liberty Roundtable Radio Live for February the 2nd in the year of our Lord 2009. George emails us. He says, Dear Sam and Kurt, I just read a newspaper article about Tom Daschle and Barack Obama's choice to hire him to be the Health and Human Services Director. And the bottom line is Tom Daschle didn't pay $128,000+ in taxes. It's the second person that's supposedly moving towards the White House in terms of a service-appointed position that didn't pay their taxes. He says, I wonder if we, as ordinary taxpayers, would be saying sorry and we're embarrassed, or whether we'd be trying to hire a lawyer to stay out of jail. Great point, George. What do you say, Bob Chapman?
I'd say there's two sets of rules. One set is for them and the other set's for us. If we did that, they would want their back taxes and the penalties that they put on that. And if you didn't cooperate with them, they might not even do that. They might just bring criminal charges against you.
I think you're exactly right. I think that's what they'll do. What's also interesting is this. Whenever individuals do a certain thing, then they say, oh, man, one or two people have done that. We better check, organization-wide or whatever else to see if everything's on the up and up. Now that two possible appointees have been caught in tax manipulation or willingness not to file, whatever term you want to say, don't you think we ought to check out everybody with absolute scrutiny?
Well, I think they should, and they obviously now are checking. Somebody is checking out the backgrounds of the status of their tax status with the United States government.
You got that right. All right, economy speaking. Over the weekend, Barack Obama humbly admitted in the presidential radio weekly address that, you know what, the economy is not going to take months to recover. It's going to take years. And this is fascinating because, one, it's an admission from the president, but two, I went to a banking meeting, a mortgage banking meeting in early 2008, Bob, and they were saying, oh, yeah, the economy will recover mid-2008, and then other experts would be like, no, it'll be like late 2008, and then somebody else was like, no, early 2009. They were all wrong. I told them it would be a lot longer. They said, Sam, you're just a doomsdayer. But I told them the truth, and now the president's saying months, not. It'll take years for the economy to recover, and he offhandedly admits that, saying most Americans know that. Is this new tactic by the president going to start to eventually morph into admitting a depression?
I think it was an honest mistake to tell the people the truth, and I'm sure he caught a lot of flack from that. It seems fluid to me, and what that means is it was him saying, hey, I think this is going to take a long time. And maybe he shouldn't have said that. Maybe he shouldn't have told the public the truth, or per his handlers. But the important thing here is this: the money that's being spent is being spent on the financial system, and the people who have destroyed our financial system are the same ones who supposedly are fixing it. Now, if somebody is driving a truck for you and he drives it over a cliff, why would you hire him again to drive a truck? And it's the same, sort of example. And so that's where all the money has been congregating, banks, brokerage firms, insurance companies, and especially chosen elitist corporations. What about the people? They're going to get a tax credit, and they're going to get some social things that are going to be thrown in. But where the money has to go is directly to the public so they can spend it. Because if they're going to give money out at all, I don't think that they should. I think the system should be purged. We all should go through financial hell, so to speak, and let's straighten it out. And let's let the chips fall where they may. And if all these banks go under, that's fine. We'll find another bank. We'll make another bank. Whatever. But if you're going to spend money, you got to spend it with the people. 72% of our economy's GDP has been in consumerism. It's not that now. It's probably down to 71. Where's it going? To 64.5. That's a long-term average since the Second World War. Okay, that's okay. But if you want to interdeep that, what you have to do is put money in the hands of the public. And how much? you're gonna have a stroke when I tell you this.
30 trillion.
Well, probably about 15 might do it.
Yeah, might do it. I'm saying it's going to take close to $30 trillion to get it done.
And that would be injected directly into the hands of the public.
And it would need to be done all at once.
If you
trickle it won't
spending
work.
and paying bills.
And if you trickle it won't work. Now, this is another interesting tidbit that Americans should know. When people pay off debt, the government calls it savings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Think about that. You owe $100,000 in debt. You pay off $50,000. They say that you saved money.
Yeah, well, we know that that's not true, but that's part of the dishonesty of government today. And it's been going on for some time, and historically it's always gone on.
And it will continue to go on.
Yes, it will. But getting a new cast of characters into Congress would be helpful. But from what we've seen, particularly in the last 8 or 9 or 10 years, is because of the hold that the elitists, the Illuminati, has on our government, and others as well. There's only one way that there's going to be changed, and it's not going to be via Congress, because too many of them are bought and paid for or compromised. And we're going to have a depression. It's going to go into the streets, and there'll be a change in government. And I wouldn't want to be in government, I'll tell you that, because the people are going to be very disturbed.
No doubt about
that. You saw
that.
what they did in France during the revolution. Well, that might be child's play.
Unfortunately true. All right, you start out the International Forecaster, the latest edition, U.S. markets, and you say the U.S. and Israel are on parallel paths. Each is now a base of operation for the Illuminati, and each will be discarded as a nation's entity once the usefulness to the cause of the New World disorder has been served. Help me understand.
It's a revolving process. They create and they destroy. It's called creative destruction. And they have done this all through history, and they have certain places that they go to, conquer, and then carve them up in an unnatural way so that they can have war on demand. They started doing this in the late 1400s. The Balkans are a good example. In Europe, you want to have a war, well, you get Serbia, Croatia, and Romania and Bulgaria and all of these countries where they start their wars. And not only do they do that, they wreck economies. A good example is the Second World War. It was begun at the signing of the armistice by the Germans, the creation of the Weimar Republic, which led to massive money and credit expansion, just like we're seeing now, a depression during the 1920s, and, of course, Adolf Hitler came to power, and the same people who financed both sides of World War I were in there helping Mr. Hitler finance his machine for a new war.
And the interesting thing is they all do it with dishonest, manipulatable fiat money. Without that, they wouldn't have their tool, would they?
That's right, and that's why central banks cannot be privately owned.
Well, that's why we shouldn't have central banks at all. That's why we shouldn't have central banks at all.
Well, then you'd have to have a currency created by a national or international bank.
Well, there
was a time when there were all kinds of currencies floating around in the United States.
Yes.
And, of course, the government stepped in finally, says we can't have this, it's not working.
Right, and then the Constitution said we should have gold and silver coinage and Congress should regulate the value thereof, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is okay. I wouldn't say that's a central bank, though, because the average guy can go out and dig in the earth and get gold and silver, and the only role the government plays is to make sure that everyone's on the same playing field for financial transactions, right?
Well, supposedly, but the Federal Reserve doesn't do that. They do what they want to do.
I mean the way Congress should have, or it was intended for them to do it.
They should have went into more detail on it.
Yes.
But,
now, they use money as their great manipulating tool, but you also mentioned here that's very important for people to understand that that Israel and the U.S. have intentionally created the best enemies fiat money can buy. Their goal is to create bloodshed and destruction.
And their economies will be destroyed, just like so many have, by these people before that, and it will evolve to another economy. Whether it'll be China or Mexico or Singapore, I don't know.